The rewards for the final boss were surprisingly rewarding, as there were quite a few high-quality armors that were distributed to the rest of the party. In addition to the armor, there were also 3 skill stones for the party to take with them, 2 of which were normal skill stones, while the final one was surprisingly a blessed skill stone. Normal skill stones gave you a random skill according to your level, but it may not be fit for you. Example being a mage receiving physique-enhancing skill. On the other hand, Shiro was excited about the blessed skill stone as it allows you to evolve one of your existing skills, and it could be any skill that you want. Her first thought was to evolve her extraction skill, but there was one concern, and that was the fact that she did not have full control over the mysterious element. It was something that the system allowed her to use for the moment, meaning she probably shouldn't be reliant on the skill. Not only that, it becomes redundant the moment the system is gone, so that was also another point of concern. Her second thought was on her grace skill. If she were to evolve grace, it could become a skill that revives the dead, while her third choice was her soul sword. Remembering the effects her soul sword had, Shiro couldn't help but wonder what would happen if she were to evolve it. Plus, she had other items that could potentially evolve her soul sword further, such as the origin fusion cell she received when she first evolved her Snowmancer class, along with the primordial enchantment rune that she had recently acquired. With these 3 items boosting her soul sword, it could become something monstrous even with her standards. "Everyone," Shiro called out. "What is it?" Lyrica turned towards her while scrolling through her stats to assign some points. After the fight, everyone had gained a few levels, so there were some extra points to be spent. "Do you mind if I take this blessed skill stone? I know it's something precious, but I kind of want to see what will happen if I combine this with 2 other items that I've been saving up," Shiro asked with a slightly embarrassed smile. "Who do you think we are?" Lyrica pouted. Before Shiro could say anything, Lyrica walked up to her. "Of course, we mind." She furrowed her brows. "Eh." Blinking a few times, Shiro looked down at her skill stone before back at Lyrica again. "PFT, what's with that face?" "Of course, we don't mind, huh?" Lyrica laughed as she turned towards the rest of the party. "You don't mind, right? Plus, I'm quite interested to see what kind of crazy skill she'll get if she uses the stone," she called out. Nodding their heads, the party had an excited look on their faces while Madison only groaned. "Please, I don't need anything crazier in my life," she complained, but everyone ignored her cries for normality. "Right then, I'll explain to you what I want to do. With this blessed skill stone, it evolves one skill of my choice. Therefore, it's better to use this stone as the final step. The other items that I have are the origin fusion cell and the primordial enchantment rune. The fusion cell allows me to fuse any number of skills together as long as they're of the same category, while the rune allows me to enhance a skill and grant it the divine attribute," Shiro said, while making a set of tables and chairs for everyone to sit on. "Meaning, a single skill of mine will go through several upgrades in an instant. This might help me reach tier 5 since my upgrade requirements are not strict. With the rune granting me divinity, it might be the key." "Oh my, which skill are you planning to upgrade then?" "Grace," Lyrica asked curiously. "Close but not quite." Shiro shook her head. "You have something more ridiculous than grace." Madison raised her eyebrows. "Yes and no. In terms of skill grade, grace is much higher, but in terms of raw power, this skill is almost unbeatable in my arsenal of powerful skills. It's the soul sword skill. It's like a literal manifestation of my soul into a sword, and its attributes are quite interesting. One slice against the skin with my soul sword will inject lethal poison into your body while corrupting your soul. A strike against the heart will consume the soul, forcing my enemies out of reincarnation. I can also slice the sword against myself to gain a huge boost in power," Shiro explained as Madison only sighed and slammed her head against the table, surprising the party. "Wake me up when she finishes the skill." Madison waved her hand lazily, raising her eyebrow. Shiro only shrugged before looking at the rest of the party. "Now then, are you ready to see something interesting?" she asked with a smile. "Not when interesting in your dictionary means becoming the Grim Reaper and harvesting souls, but sure, I'm here to watch." Sylvia chuckled. Agreeing with Sylvia, the rest of the party made themselves comfortable while Shiro prepared to evolve her skill. The first step would be to use the origin fusion cell. Since it required skills of the same category, her soul sword is perfect as it is both a sword skill and a berserk skill. meaning she can combine all of her berserk skills along with refraction, sword domain, and unseen blade. Taking a deep breath, she brought out the origin fusion cell that had been collecting dust in her inventory. Origin fusion cell, an item blessed by the origin. When used, users can fuse any number of skills of the same category and receive an upgraded skill as a replacement. The stronger and more skills you use as fusion material, the better the final skill, with the item being classified as Shiro. Couldn't help but wonder if it was something similar to the error element that she had received. However, that was thoughts for later. Right now, she had skills to combine. Activating the item, she watched as a brand new system window appeared in front of her. There was a main box followed by a large empty box. Understanding that she needed to choose her skills and place it into the new window, Shiro started to drag her skills over one by one with Soul Sword in the main box, as it was going to be the main ability that she wanted to focus around. Force of Elements, Frenzied Incarnation EX, Refraction. One by one, the screen started to fill up with skills that were of the same category as Soul Sword. To her surprise, she was even allowed to select the skills that she had recycled from items, meaning every single berserk skill and sword skill that she knew was going to be fused into one. Once she was sure that all of the skills she could choose were in the window, she pressed the accept button on the bottom. Asterisk boom. Suddenly, a giant radiant magic circle appeared in the sky as Shiro was not able to identify its tier. Normally, you would find out the tier of the magic circle through the amount of coarse circles, or rather, layers that it had. Each tier would represent a single layer, meaning tier 5 magic circles had 5 layers. That as for this one that she was currently seeing, there were simply too many to count, and they were flickering in and out of existence with each passing second. With Shiro in the center, it was quite a sight to behold, especially when the party was so close to her. Watching the surge of mana that was pulled up into the magic circle, they were surprised to find themselves weak from the lack of mana. URG, I can't even rest in peace, Madison complained as she glanced up at the giant magic circle. Ignoring the party, Shiro focused memorizing this magic circle as best as she could. Who knows, she could potentially study this type of magic circle and make use of it in the future. As the magic circle absorbed more mana, Shiro noticed that it was shaking the raid dungeon, as the ceiling of this realm was now showing cracks. However, she couldn't stop now, feeling a surge of new knowledge in her mind. Shiro did not hesitate to use her primordial enhancement rune. Feeling a wave of foreign energy surged through the deepest parts of her consciousness. Abnormal situation detected, calling available administrators. Ignoring the system prompt, Shiro activated her third and final item, the Blessed Skill Stone, asterisk crack. Ping. Shattering the walls of the raid, a giant pillar of light shot up into the night sky as the Vatican City was suddenly void of all mana. People who were in the midst of walking felt weakness wash over them as many collapsed from this phenomenon. Divine grade skill has been created. Please name the skill. Seeing this, Shiro decided to hold off on naming until she saw the description. But when she did, she couldn't help but widen her eyes in shock. Even when she understood that she could make a ridiculous skill with everything combined, she didn't expect it to be ridiculous. Rubbing her eyes, she had to make sure that she wasn't hallucinating. Girls, Shiro called out hesitantly. F asterisk CK. When Shiro hesitates, you know she's F asterisk ked something up big time. Madison groaned. That is exactly what happened. I'm not even sure if I'm seeing the description of this skill correctly myself. It's just ridiculous. Shiro forced a smile. What are you going to name it? Lyrica asked curiously. I don't know. Shiro shook her head before making a hologram of what she could see. The moment the party laid eyes on the skill, they couldn't help but widen their eyes in disbelief. As well, what the F asterisk CK? Divine, a skill that grants you 5 abilities. First ability, Reaper. You may enhance any weapon with the following properties. A single hit will inject lethal poison into their system, dulling their movements while causing excruciating pain in their soul. Stab their heart, and they'll have their soul consumed. Wrap it around the enemy, and depending on the difference in strength, you may rip out their soul from their mortal body, leaving them weakened. Duration of skill, 30 minutes cooldown, 1 day second. Ability, Limit Break. You break past your limits and receive a significant boost in strength, plus 800% to all stats. When this happens, all enemies within range of you will be inflicted with fear regardless of resistance or immunity. They will also suffer a decrease in stats during this period of time, minus 80% of all stats. In this state, you also receive 300% HP and MP regeneration. Duration of skill, 5 minutes cooldown, 2 weeks backlash. You lose all movement for 1 week, and you cannot use mana in that time. You also receive a 95% decrease in all stats during this period. Third ability, Origin. All of your mana is replaced with Origin for a short period of time. When this happens, all of your spells ignore resistances. In addition to this, your spells receive a 300% boost in power. Duration, 5-minute cooldown, 1 day. Fourth ability, War Saint. When activated, you instinctively know how to dodge the attacks that are thrown towards you. In a situation where it is one against many, you gain a full understanding of the battlefield, allowing you to make the best movements to avoid death. In this state, your attacks gain 100% armor penetration, and as long as you deal a certain amount of damage to their health in one go, they are immediately killed on the spot. Threshold of instant kill for enemies weaker than you, 20% of their health in one attack. Threshold of instant kill for enemies stronger than you, 75% of their health in one attack. Duration, 2 minutes cooldown, 1 week backlash. You experience twice the pain of your enemies after the duration. You also suffer a 60% decrease to your stats for 3 days. Fifth ability, Divine Enchantment. Once per day, you are allowed to enchant one of your skills with this skill, evolving it to the next tier for a period of time. You may not use this skill on Reaper, Limit Break, Origin, or War Saint. Duration, 10 minutes cooldown, 1 day. Reading all 5 abilities that her new skill granted her, the party finally understood why Shiro had a hard time naming this skill. The first skill, Reaper, was one that allowed her to directly affect their souls. The second skill was a powerful berserk skill that increased her stats by 800%, while the third enhanced her spell power. The fourth will make one against many a piece of cake, while the fifth allowed her to get a free upgrade to her skills every day. While it may only last 10 minutes, there were many things that Shiro could do in that time. All 5 covered different areas, so it was somewhat hard to generalize it into one name, which only begs the question of how a single skill became this diverse. However, considering the fact that the Soul Sword was essentially a merge of 3 types of skills, it wasn't too difficult to imagine that this was the result. Why don't we call it 5 dishes? One for each occasion, Ian suggested with a laugh as the party rolled their eyes. What about something like Dash? Before Lyrica could say her suggestion, they saw Shiro's system notification. No name has been chosen. The system will now generate one. Done. Pandora's Requiem. Sighing softly, Shiro turned off the hologram. Abnormal achievement gained. Huh. Raising her eyebrow, Shiro looked at the new notification. You have attained a piece of divinity as a Tier 4 entity. The gods are surprised. There is now a spot for you in the Hall of Divine. Nyx is pleasantly surprised. Asteria is shocked. Most of the Greek pantheon is shocked. The other gods have taken notice of your existence. Demon god Veron has recognized you. You have gained the qualifications to class up to Tier 5. Girls, Shiro called out. OF*CK. Something else happened, didn't it? Yeah, well, it's better for you to see for yourself. Shiro forced a smile and created the hologram once more, seeing the notifications of gods taking notice of Shiro. The party stayed silent. Just let me sleep this off. I promise I won't give a *T when I wake up. Madison sighed and massaged her eyes. Honestly, it's the same for me. Lyrica nodded her head since this was quite something for them to digest. After all, they're still Tier 4, and the gods were already taking notice of them. Well, Shiro to be precise, but by extension, that includes them. Yeah, I'll deal with this class up later. I think I might hold off on talking to the Pope until I rank up. Shiro nodded her head before looking at the sky. She could still see cracks in space as it was trying to mend itself back together. Agreeing with the notion of taking a break, the party made their way to the obelisk that had appeared after they killed the final boss and teleported back to the city. Upon arrival, they could see several government agents appearing with serious expressions on their face. Just outside of the teleport shrine, they could also see ambulances carrying unconscious people before hurrying off into the distance. "Erm, excuse me," Shiro called out to one of the nearby government officials, since this was quite a strange sight. "Emin, hurry it up, we're doing official government business right now." The official frowned but decided to spare her some time. "What happened? Everything was fine before we went into a raid, but why are there so many people unconscious?" "Is it demons?" Shiro asked. Seeing the huge amount of unconscious people, she guessed that it could be a ploy by the demons. Remembering what her future self had told her, she made sure to place a few nanobots on Madison's body just in case. "We don't. No. A few moments ago, there was a giant magic circle that suddenly appeared over the city and drained all of the ambient mana. This included the mana from people, so there are lots of adventurers suffering from mana deficiency." The official shook his head before hurrying off into the distance. Standing there awkwardly, Shiro realized that this was her doing rather than the demons. "Why don't we help out a little?" Shiro asked with a cough. Asterisk sigh. "I guess we're partially responsible since we told you to go ahead with the fusion." Madison sighed as she scratched her hair. Nodding their heads, the party started to split up and help with the rescue operation. Sylvia and Shiro made their way to where the patients were being carried off and started to heal them with their healing spells. As there were more than 100 people that were affected, Shiro had everyone form a party with her so that she could cast grace on everyone. Unfortunately, there were a few people that were transported late, so Sylvia would have to deal with them. With the efforts of every healer that the government had sent over, the effects of Shiro's actions had been mitigated and the city almost back to normal. With the city almost back to normal, Shiro returned to her room and checked her system. After all, she could now class up to Tier 5 if she so wished. Flicking through the panels, she eventually reached the section that determined her class up. "Do you wish to class up? Should you agree to this, you will undergo an evolution to reach Tier 5. Looking at this line, Shiro looked out the window and wondered if she should be patient or not. From her understanding of how the system worked, the longer she waited, the more powerful the class due to the amount of achievements that she could attain. However, the longer she waited, the less time she had to reach Tier 6 and so on. Thinking about it, Shiro couldn't help but toss and turn in her bed. "Should I class up or should I wait?" She sighed. "I think it's probably better to class up right now. If you go with the wait mentality, you'll always be waiting and it'll never end. Plus, time isn't exactly in an abundance right now, especially with the new age right around the corner." Nimue shrugged. "I suppose so. What do you think, Azul?" "Me? Well, I'm the same as Nimue. You should probably try to get to Tier 6 before the new age." Azul tilted her head slightly. "You're right. But I probably shouldn't class up in the city. Seeing as how my new skill caused such a commotion, I should probably find a good dungeon. Either that, or you class up in the middle of nowhere." Nimue smiled. "Amen. Let's see." Grabbing her phone, Shiro quickly checked all the available dungeons. Right, and picked the level 150 Nightmare Museum dungeon. Pushing her blanket aside, she quickly got dressed and jumped out of her window. Making her way to the dungeon, she could still see a few people being treated for mana deficiency in the distance and couldn't help but pray for their safety. After all, she was the one that caused this. Landing softly in front of the dungeon gate, she pushed open the dungeon gates and stepped inside. Once her vision cleared up, her first task was to make sure the monsters won't interfere. Pressing her hand against the wall, she was greeted with the familiar sight of monsters running away from her locations. Makes sense. However, just to be sure, narrowing her eyes, a Tier 5 magic circle wrapped around Shiro's wrist as ice started to spread through the dungeon. Making a cage of sorts around the room that all the monsters were gathered, she made sure that they couldn't escape. Once that was done, she could finally class up without any worries. Navigating to the class up screen, she pressed yes for the class up. Right after she pressed yes, she felt a wave of fatigue hit her mind as she stumbled on her feet. "URG damn. It's gonna be one of those class ups, huh?" She forced herself to stand as her vision started to blur. Slowly, crystals started to form near her feet. Looking at the crystals that had appeared, Shiro knew that this was part of the class up process since she had experienced this before. Closing her eyes, she allowed her entire body to be encased in this crystal. Once her entire body was covered, she drifted off into sleep. Multiple classes detected. X-ranked class, Ascendant Snowmancer. X-ranked class, True Celestial Sylph Empress. Permission to merge. Permission granted by administrator. Limit of mortals is EX ranked. Permission to remove this limiter. Subject has obtained rank 8, divine grade skill. Limit has already been broken, allowing subject access to demigod and divine ranked classes. Tallying achievements. Rank 6 in the process of being killed included. His body is already flooded with nanobots. Death is unavoidable. Subject has obtained a seat in the Hall of Divine. Subject has killed the avatar of a god. Subject has access to Error 403. Subject has gained memories of previous incarnations. Subject has gained knowledge on how to create anchors. Subject has housed multiple EX rank skills. Subject has Nyx's favor on her side. Subject has S favor on her side. Abnormality detected. Subject has achieved feats that are impossible for a Tier 4. Reevaluating. Requesting assistance from all available administrators. 15 administrators have answered the call for assistance. Evaluating. Administrator 13 proposed to reapply the limiter to keep the balance. 6 for, 9 against. Proposition denied. Administrator 4 proposed to grant subject more rewards due to her achievements. Reasoning. All of the achievements she has done have been her own efforts. There's no need to take it all away. In fact, we should award her as she has been several close calls with death. 5 for, 10 against. Proposition denied. System question. Which rank of class should the subject obtain? Due to prior abnormalities, her class was not determined. Based on the laws of the system, she shall get a class higher than her current one, meaning she is to be granted the status of Tier 7 demigod as EX rank is to be the limit of Tier 6. All 15 administrators voted no for demigod ranked class at Tier 5. Administrator 1 proposed to create a new rank for subject's class. One higher than EX, but lower than demigod. 10 for, 5 against. Proposition accepted. System shall now generate new rank for subject. Rank generated. Subject shall now obtain the Ascendant X ranked class, Divine Sylph Snowmancer. Retaining Empress privileges. As the first class of its kind, further rewards are required for the subject. The system allows no votes for this decision. Rewards include title, item, skill. Generating. Complete. Administrators are now dismissed. ####damn. Clicking his tongue, Administrator 4 had an annoyed expression. His initial proposal of giving subject Shiro more rewards was voted against, but the system eventually gave her rewards anyways. Well, she'll get more rewards whether the other administrators like it or not. He chuckled. He was the one that Shiro's system had kept calling for when there was an abnormality. All the insane feats that she had accomplished were witnessed by him. Initially, he thought that it was such a pain to deal with since she was breaking the balance, but eventually, he became quite excited to see what she could do. Let's see what else she'll accomplish. He laughed as he swiped a few screens. Most of them were damage reports caused by Shiro, especially the most recent one where she broke the walls of a raid and caused a mass case of mana deficiency. ###****ping shattering the crystal to pieces. Shiro couldn't control her body, and she fell face forwards. Gah! Rubbing her nose, Shiro furrowed her brows and looked around her. Seeing that she was back in the dungeon, she sighed in relief before conjuring up a mirror to check her appearance. After all, with each class up, she changes ever so slightly. The first thing that she noticed was her eyes turning red like rubies while they were a dark shade of purple before. The second thing she noticed was that she had grown a little taller and her features were more mature. If she had to guess her body's age right now, it would be around 20. Oh my, I'm starting to look more like my future self. Shiro couldn't help but smile. Patting the dust off her body, she gave herself a quick stretch and checked her stats. The first thing she noticed was that she now had a single class on her screen. The second thing she noticed was the jump in stats that she had just received. You have received the Ascendant EX class, Divine Sylph Snowmancer. Your race has evolved. Celestial Fae-Divine Fae. As the first person in the universe to have ever achieved an Ascendant EX class, you receive the following rewards. Title, one of a kind. With this title, the assignable points that you receive per level up is doubled. Item, map to the Garden Shard. Passive skill, Skill Scholar. You have a better understanding of each of your skills. Should you spend the time to study them properly, you may be able to unlock their hidden potential. Looking at these three rewards, Shiro couldn't help but grin. The first means that she's going to get even stronger. The second is what she needed to find the core piece for an anchor, and the third allowed her to achieve what her future self did, such as focusing grace on a small part of the body rather than the whole. What a haul! She giggled slightly from joy. Thinking about it for a moment, she decided to spare the monsters in the dungeon and make her way back to her room. On her way out of the dungeon, she checked her new stat page. The first thing that she noticed was the huge amount of assignable points that she now had access to. Due to her title, it was doubled, meaning she was originally meant to get around 30k per level, but now she had 60k to spend, immediately spending it on her main stats, INT. Shiro smiled in satisfaction. In addition to this, some of her skills had also been upgraded, such as her Celestial Gardens, which was now Divine Gardens. Name: Shiro. Race: Divine. Fey. Title: Advanced Monster. 445/1000 humans killed. Fratricide. Creator of the Frozen Hell series. Incomplete. Creator of Een Style Azura's Path. Seeker of Truths. Revolutionary. Celestial Empress EX. Benevolent Saint EX. Error code: Genocide. One of a kind. Level 201. Class: Divine Sylph Nanomancer. Ascendant EX. HP: 462, 500, 000/462, 500, 000 MP. 1, 520, 625, 000/1, 520, 625, 000 STR. 2,500,000 less than plus 1,250,000, plus 800,000, at plus 250, email protected, equals 4, 800, 000 VIT. 2 million less than plus 1 million, plus 500,000, at plus 200. Email protected, equals 3, 700, 000 INT. For 1,060,000 less than plus 2,030,000, plus 1 million, plus 203, 000, plus 4, 060, 000, at plus 812. Email protected, equals 12, 165, 000 AGI. 2,500,000 less than plus 1,250,000, plus 600,000, at plus 250. Email protected, equals 4, 600, 000 DX. 1,500,000 less than plus 750,000, plus 300,000, at plus 150. Email protected, equals 2, 700, 000 DF. 1 million less than plus 500,000, plus 400,000, at plus 100. Email protected, equals 2, 000, 000, equals title bonus, 50%. Tears of the Sylph Queen plus 5% INT. Armor. Equals armor passive added equals Gorgon. 10% to everything, 20% to INT. Unassigned points, 60,000 dash. 0 attunements. Cosmic Ice. Tier 5 Apocalyptic Lightning. Tier 5 Stygian Steel. Tier 5 Astral Rift. Tier 5 Augmented with Calamity's Will. Void Star. Tier 5 Celestial Star. Tier 5 Dark Celestial Phoenix Fire. Tier 5 Boreal Wind. Tier 5 Tectonic Quake. Tier 5 Oceanic Abyss. Tier 5 Nature. Tier 5 Tier Nanotech. Tier 6 Skills. Error. Extraction Divine Sylph Nanomancer. Elemental Breath. Celestial Mirage. Force of Elements. Divine Raiment EX. Tier 5 Element Magic. Rift Strider EX. Divine Empress Domain EX. Monster Skill. Rejuvenation EX. Advanced Elemental Mastery. Spirit Assistance EX. Divine Court Appointment. Empress Blessing. Shared Burden. Nanotech Engineering Tier 5. Analysis Frozen Hell Series Frozen Slumber. Azure Hellfire. Borealis Lance. Frozen Chandelier Ancient. Healing Arts. Fire of Life. Grace Path of Ascendance. Phantom Path. Celestial Path Pandora's Requiem. Reaper. Limit Break. Origin. War Saint. Divine Enchantment Other. Minimap. Inspection. Disguise. Combust. Heavenly Constellation. Aurora. Chimera Arts. Divine Gardens. Hollow. Deceit. Hitoma. Divine Language. Asteria's Blessing. Wrath of Stars. Eyes of the Gorgon. Miracle. Sigil of Night. Encroaching Darkness. Skill Scholar. With this upgrade, her HP was almost 500 million, while her MP had surpassed the 1.5 billion mark. And to make matters worse, you still haven't bothered with upgrading your monster title. Once you do, I don't want to imagine how much stronger you'll become. Nimue sighed. Well, I've been busy, so I haven't really been out on a killing spree now, have I? Though I am curious about one thing. If I kill a demon, would it increase my monster title? Shiro replied with a shrug. Who knows? However, now that I don't have Empress or Queen in my class, does that mean I lost the connection to the spirit race? Shiro asked with a slight frown. Don't worry, my Empress. I can still feel the connection, so even if your class doesn't state that you are the Empress, you are still the spirit race's leader. Estrella replied. Well, there you have it. Everything is still fine. Nimue smiled, making her way back to the house. She saw Aram waiting outside with a twitching smile. Evening. I would have thought that you would be sleeping right now. Shiro waved her hand. I would be if I didn't receive a sudden surge in mana within my body. Aram replied with a sigh. Well, I just went out to class up. Apparently, I got a class grade that no one has ever achieved. Shiro chuckled. Of course you would get that kind of achievement. Aram rolled her eyes. Asterisk yawn. As long as I don't get any sudden bursts in mana quantity in my sleep, I'll be okay. Good night. Aram yawned before returning back to her room. Doing the same, Shiro rested for the night. ####. The first thing she did after waking up was to inform the party about her class up. During this, Shiro noticed that Lyssandra's class had changed from Celestial Seraphim to Divine Seraphim. So both of your classes have merged. Lyrica raised her eyebrow after seeing her class. Yup. Shiro nodded her head. So do you feel any different? Or is it still the same, but you're just a bit stronger? Madison asked after making herself some coffee. I'm not sure, but I'll probably figure that out in combat or something. Shiro shrugged. So what's the plan for today then? Should I start making the main pieces of Lyrica's weapon? Helion asked curiously. You make the main pieces while I go talk to the Pope about the whole demon problem. Just to make sure that Shiro wasn't going to do anything too crazy, the party decided to follow her to meet the Pope. Plus, it would be easier if they went with her since they've already met the Pope. Before leaving the house, Shiro made sure to disguise her class a little so that they wouldn't know about her. Nanobots. While she is now tier 5, she was still in the early stages. Once she gets to around level 300, she wouldn't need to worry about most people, and that's when she can stop disguising herself. Making their way to the Apostolic Palace where the Pope lives, they were led to a guest room. The Pope will be here shortly, a nun said with a small smile before leaving the room. Waiting around for a while, young man approached the party. I am Pope Fabian. It is an honor to meet the Mother of the Holy One. Fabian smiled, rather than an old man. The Pope was a young man who looked to be in his early 20s. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, a set of delicate features. He had a rather calming aura around him as Shiro was quite surprised at his AGE.IN. Her mind, the Pope would have been an old man with white hair or something. Seeing the expression of your face, it seems like you did not expect me to be this young. Fabian chuckled. All right, sorry about that. Shiro apologized. It is okay. I am used to these looks of surprise. Fabian shook his head. So, I've been recently informed about the surplus of demons appearing in the city along with the low combat standard which prevents you from clearing dungeons and raids. They are indeed a concern for us. Thankfully, with the Holy One's presence and the efforts of your party, we were able to resolve most of our problems, but they are short-term fixes. Understandable. So I have an idea for the demon problem. Shiro smiled as Fabian was immediately interested. I can track them down and eliminate them, but the magic circle I use might be a bit too flashy, so I'll need your permission, I suppose. How flashy would a magic circle have to be for you to need my permission? Fabian tilted his head. Something around or bigger than the city itself. Shiro replied as Fabian paused in surprise, taking a moment to digest what she had just said. He eventually nodded his head. That is fine. I can send a notice out later, notifying the residents of your actions. Great. As for the second problem, there's not much I can do other than provide some training equipment, I suppose. However, the government should have been able to provide you with virtual training simulators, no? Why have you not been putting them to use? Shiro asked, smiling bitterly. Fabian shook his head. It's not that we don't want to put them to use, but rather we weren't able to. You see, the cost of maintaining the simulator is quite high, and it also uses high-class mana crystals as one of the fuel sources. At first, the government assigned some mana crystals to us, but after a lack of progress, The amount of mana crystals started to decrease. I suppose in their eyes it's not worth the effort, so we're left with our retired veterans trying to train the younger generation. So it's only a matter of fuel then? Shiro raised her eyebrows. Yes. Oh, if that's all, then I can deal with it easily. Show me to the simulators, and I'll do some maintenance on them. I'll make it so that you don't need any mana crystals. Shiro grinned. Following Fabian to where they keep the simulators, Shiro raised her eyebrow when she saw the model of the simulators. They were worse than the ones she had used in New York, and that was in the weakest city. All right, step out for a bit. I'll fix this up real quick. Shiro waved her hand as Fabian nodded his head. Just as he left, the party looked towards her. Don't go too crazy. If you make a simulator that transcends our technology by like 100 years, things are going to get annoying. Madison reminded as Shiro stayed silent. You were planning to do that, weren't you? Madison narrowed her eyes. Asterisk cough. Not really. I was just going to install a few mana absorbers and better AI for the simulations. Shiro replied while looking away from the party, sighing. Softly, Madison gave up. Just do what you want. Hearing this, Shiro grinned. Placing her hand on the simulators, she closed her eyes and mapped out their internal composition. Understanding the simulators a bit better, she started to get to work. Summoning some nanobots, she started to install new components. The main feature that she wanted to install was for adventurers to study in the simulation. A training hall of sorts so that they could improve. The next feature would be a graduation hall where they'll need to put what they have learned to the test, and for that to work, she'd need bosses that can only be defeated with what they've learned. Programming a few AI to fit these requirements of hers, Shiro didn't have too hard of a time to fix the simulators as she had experienced advanced ones back in Aria. Phew, that should do it. She smiled as she looked at the new and improved machines. Calling Fabian back in, she suggested that he give it a try himself. Okay, so what do I do? He asked while inspecting the machine. Just sit in it. Don't worry, I'll hop over too so that I can give you a tour. We'll have you go through a tutorial of sorts too. Shiro smiled, as Sylvia suddenly felt a chill. She could still remember what had happened during her tutorial of Shiro's training. Oh God, she's going to turn the adventurers of Vatican City into a group of maniacs now. Sylvia whispered over to the rest of the party, but they already had a face of acceptance. Ignoring Sylvia's whisper, Shiro hopped into one of the simulators and activated the device. After a short moment, she found herself in the digital world with Fabian beside her, looking around in awe. Glancing down at his hands, he clenched and relaxed his fist a few times. So what's the tutorial? He asked. The first tutorial is learning how you enhance your weapon with your mana. In addition to this, you'll also need to learn how to wrap your mana around your body like a plate of armor. These two are the fundamentals that every adventurer needs to learn. But I already know this. Fabian tilted his head and demonstrated it to her. Yes, but it's weak. I say fundamentals, but in reality, it's much harder than the basic aura that you conjure up. Shiro grinned and flicked the mana that he had wrapped around himself. Shattering it to pieces, she gestured for him to follow her. Come into this room. It's a compressor of sorts, and it'll help you learn how to strengthen your aura. Shiro smiled. Walking inside the room, he could see a screen appear in front of him. Would you like a video demonstration on how to deploy mana properly? Selecting the No button, a new panel appeared. Please select the difficulty of the room. Super. Easy, easy, below average. Normal, above average. Hard, super hard. Hero tier, thinking about it for a moment. He pressed below average as he wasn't too sure about the difficulty after Shiro shattered his aura with ease. Please deploy your mana around you like a barrier. The test will begin in 5 seconds. Seeing this, he deployed his mana once more as Shiro stepped outside and watched with a grin. A shame that he picked below average. Should have picked super easy. After all, she giggled. It's using me as reference for the grade. The moment the timer hit 1, a crushing pressure crashed against Fabian and his body was immediately reduced to bloody mist, respawning with disbelief written all over his face. Fabian turned towards Shiro. That's below average. He asked with a twitching smile. Yup. Why don't you give super easy a shot after watching the video? Shiro asked with a sadistic smile. Feeling a shiver down his spine, Fabian nodded his head. While this was happening, The party could see everything that was happening from the outside due to the fact that Shiro had made sure a screen would show them what was happening. Seeing the deceiving difficulty grade and Shiro's sadistic smile, they prayed that the Pope wouldn't be broken by her. After watching the video, Fabian understood that he needed to increase the speed of the mana along with compressing it. Otherwise, it would be shattered in an instant. Picking the super easy difficult this time, he braced himself for the impact. But just as the countdown hit 1, he was surprised by the lack of pressure and couldn't help but wonder if it was broken. However, the moment he turned around and saw Shiro's sadistic smile, he knew that something was wrong and immediately tried his best to reinforce his mana armor. Asterisk bang. Feeling as though a giant hammer had just slammed into his body, Fabian struggled to stand up as his body was crushed against the ground. After a short moment, he was turned to paste and respawned next to Shiro. "So how was it?" Shiro asked with a soft chuckle. "I think the difficulty is a bit misleading," he replied, forcing a smile. "Not really. Super easy is indeed super easy. It gives you some more time to reinforce your mana armor, and the pressure is something an average adventurer at your level could output at max efficiency. If you can survive super easy, then you're pretty much sorted. The over levels are for those that want to go higher." Shiro replied with a shrug. "Anyways, come with me to the second test. We don't have enough time for you to complete this one since it might take a few months." Sending them to the next area, it was time to reinforce weapons with mana. "Would you like a video demonstration on how to reinforce weapons?" Pressing yes without hesitation, Fabian tried his best to memorize everything before stepping into the testing area. Choosing the super easy difficulty, he was surprised to see a panel explaining the situation. "You must reinforce the carrot in your hands with mana so that the rabbit doesn't consume it. Once it does, you will fail the test." Seeing the carrot that had appeared in his hands, he followed the instructions and reinforced the carrot in time to see a white bunny appear in the far end of the room. Blinking once, he was surprised to see the bunny already in front of him as he opened his mouth and took a bite towards the carrot. Asterisk crack. Shattering the carrot to pieces, the bunny's fur turned a deep shade of red and his body size increased by many times. Looking at the now giant bunny that was glaring at him with murderous intent, Fabian wasn't even able to run when his upper torso was ripped from his waist with a single bite. Respawning next to Shiro, Fabian stayed silent. "This is just the tutorial?" he asked. "Yup. Things get harder after this." "Yup." Leaving the digital world, Fabian thought to himself for a moment before glancing towards Shiro. "I think you should lower the difficulty a little. I don't think anyone in this city can pass the tutorial level. If you're not convinced, I can get one of our party members to do it and record it as proof. That way, when adventurers try it out, they can see that someone has already passed the tutorial," Shiro suggested. Nodding his head, he was curious as to who the person was going to be. "Lyrica, you want to do the tutorial?" Shiro asked with a smile. She had full confidence that Lyrica can complete this without any problems. "Sure. Which difficulty do you want me to do?" "You can probably complete above average if I'm honest, but stick with normal for now," Shiro replied. Nodding her head, Lyrica sat in one of the simulators and closed her eyes. Finding herself in the digital world, she did not hesitate to begin the first trial. Closing her eyes, mana wrapped around her body and formed a thin layer of armor which seemed like it would shatter with a single poke. But when the pressure struck against her body, the only thing that Fabian could see was slight traces of discomfort on Lyrica's face as her mana did not crack from the pressure. After she passed the first trial, she proceeded to the bunny. Picking normal once more, her reinforced carrot had actually broken the rabbit's teeth as Fabian watched with shock that he failed the lowest difficulty, but Lyrica had completed normal without too many problems. "See, the grading is fine," Shiro grinned. After recording a few of the trial completions with the party members, Fabian didn't have anything to say about the difficulty of the trials, only the naming of them. However, after some persuasion from Shiro, he eventually agreed. Making sure that every simulator was upgraded, Shiro had Fabian send them to a training hall of sorts so that it was independent from the guild. That way, he could earn some money for the orphanages rather than split it off to the guild. It's not like he's using their resources due to the fact that the machines were now actively absorbing ambient mana to power themselves. after she had sorted out the problem regarding the simulators and the standard of adventurers in this city. It was time to discuss the main problem, which was the demons. So you said that the magic circle may stretch across the entire city, right? Wouldn't that cause a second round of mana deficiency due to the mana required for the spell? Fabian asked, as the safety of the people was his main concern. Don't worry, I'll be powering the magic circle entirely by myself. Plus, it's bigger than what it actually seems. Its main job is to search for the demons after all. Shiro waved her hand. I see. Are you able to wait a few days, though? I want to make sure that the patients in the hospital are safe before you try anything. Fabian asked as Shiro nodded after a short moment. Sure, I don't see why not. After talking to the Pope for a little longer, they left the building and made their way through the city. What shall we do now? We got a few days to burn before we look for the demons. Lyrica asked. I'm going to pay an old friend a visit. After all, I got a glimpse of the future. There are a few things that I need to remember. Shiro replied as it was time for her to track down the Dragon Master himself. After all, her older self informed her of Vatican City's destruction at the hands of Dominic. With both dragons and demons attacking the city, the people and no chance of survival, and the casualty rates were off the charts. Oh, who's this old friend of yours? Lyrica raised an eyebrow. I say old, but I haven't actually met him yet. I know him in the future. Shiro replied. She wasn't going to mention Rakartha's race just yet because Ian might go on a rampage. Do you want us to join you? No, it's fine. Just continue to do some dungeon runs with Lysandra while I deal with this. It's easier if I go alone since stealth might be needed. Plus, since me and Lysandra's levels are linked, you're helping me by taking her to dungeons. Shiro smiled as Lyrica nodded her head. Splitting up the party, Shiro launched herself onto the highest roof that she could see and started to search for the nanobots that she had planted on Dominic's body, finding the signal to be slightly out of the city. She raised her eyebrow before jumping into the rift. Dashing her way through the city, Shiro noticed that the signal started to stray towards the direction of the Colosseum, located in the center of Rome. How peculiar, she thought to herself. Do you think he's keeping the dragons there? Nimue asked curiously. I highly doubt it. They're probably in a different dimension since he can call upon them at will. I wouldn't be surprised if he could do something similar to Theria. Shiro shook her head, stalking the signal for a while. She soon spotted the cloaked man himself riding in the sky on the back of a small dragon. Narrowing her eyes, she wondered if she should just kill him now. However, she had a better idea and decided to play a bit of trickery. Conjuring up some nanobots, she changed her outfit to fit the rogue assassin that people know after her demonstration of her guns in the Elven continent. That way, even if she's spotted, they wouldn't know that it was her. Of course, only until she revealed her guns to the world as Shiro, then they'll know she was the source of it all along. Following behind the dragon, she watched as he dismounted not too far from the Colosseum and proceeded to make his way through. Doing the same, Shiro's appearance caused a huge commotion to occur as they recognized her to be the one who owns the only set of working guns in this world. Some fled in a small panic while others took pictures. Shiro ignored all of this and entered the Colosseum. Upon entering, she immediately noticed Dominic's signal going deep underground. From what she could see, things looked normal as the Colosseum was revamped into a fighting ring for adventurers, and people were betting on the winners. No one is allowed to kill, and the victor is decided when someone is either knocked out cold or pushed out of the arena. Those who commit murder are put under arrest during this event. Ignoring the stares directed towards her, Shiro stepped into some shadow and activated her illusion skill, camouflaging her body before phasing through the ground to chase the signal, sending her mana through this place. Shiro was shocked at the size of this underground city of sorts. The outer rim was padded with mana-absorbent materials, which meant that it was hard to find this place from the outside. But now that she was inside, she could see the vastness of this underground city. The black market was to her left while fighting arenas was to her right. In front of her was a long line of buildings of unknown nature. The entire underground city was lit up with ceiling lights powered by mana crystals, giving the entire place a dark feeling. Furrowing her brows, Shiro decided to change her disguise a little while trailing behind Dominic. After all, she was quite curious as to what kind of items were being sold here. Browsing through the wares, there were quite a few cursed weapons and armor. In addition to this, She could also spot a few slaves in the distance, which caused her to furrow her brows, but that was about it. It wasn't her responsibility, as she didn't cause this. The only reason she showed concern to the people in Vatican City was because her skill caused a mass case of mana deficiency, which could have killed thousands. Shaking her head, she continued to follow Dominic as he soon entered a building. Snapping her fingers, she modified the nanobot a little so that it would act as a mic for her to listen in on his conversation. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Have you brought the payment? An unfamiliar voice asked. Amen. Have you brought the information? Dominic replied. There was a strange coldness to his voice as Shiro understood that he was probably acting while he was in the group of people. Of course, I don't do fake business. After all, the unfamiliar voice chuckled. Though I must say, you're pretty ruthless to carve up your party members like that, even the kid. Looking at his expression, I must say he must have been pretty shocked at your actions. Shut it. Just give me the information without the small talk. Dominic snapped back as the voice chuckled once more. Very well. Here you go. Hearing some shuffling, Shiro watched as Dominic left the building. Narrowing her eyes, she decided to pay a visit to his trade partner. Phasing through the walls, she saw a person sit on the table while guards surrounded him. His posture was hunched over ass. His physique was on the skinny side. His hair was messy and dark marks could be seen under his eyes. Thinking about it for a moment, she snapped her fingers and sent out a wave of nanobots to infiltrate the guards' bodies. Hearing the snap, the man quickly turned around to see Shiro's disguised self. Before he could act, her body flickered in front of him and grabbed his throat. Celestial Path-enhanced needles were stuck in his body, preventing the use of mana while the guards were frozen in place due to the nanobots in their systems. Speak. What information did you provide to Dominic? Shiro asked as her disguised voice rang out quietly. I'll talk, just let go of my neck. The skinny man squeezed out, raising his hands in defeat. As a trader in the black market, he valued his life over most things, so he was going to go along with her demands. Plus, seeing as how his guards are frozen and his mana was blocked, the person in front of him was not one to be messed around with. Letting go of the man's neck, Shiro sat on one of the chairs and crossed her legs. The information that Dominic wanted was about the queens along with every bit of information I can provide to him about the Vatican City, the level of adventurers, the defense, the weak points of their defense, and even some information on the demons. The man replied while rubbing his neck. Do you know what he wants to do with all that information? Shiro narrowed her eyes. While she knew that he wanted to destroy Vatican City, she wanted to know more of the situation so that she could see if there were any mastermind behind all of this. I know that he has a grudge with the Pope of the place. They used to be friends when they were younger, I believe. Not sure how far this grudge extends to since I never looked too deep into it. But I'll tell you one thing though. He's very curious about someone called the Dragon Queen. I haven't got much information on her except for a few tidbits I collected from people who have already joined Theria's faction. Oh, and what kind of information is it? Shiro raised her eyebrow in curiosity. It's about where you can find the Dragon Queen. You see, some have spotted her domain near the Flaming Continent, which isn't surprising considering the fact that the Flaming Continent is the home base of dragons. Unfortunately, the Flaming Continent is far into the unexplored territory, so not many have mapped out the place. If I had to guess, only around 5% of that place is mapped out. And why does he want to meet the Dragon Queen? Probably to pledge allegiance towards her or something, haha. Even though he's already in the Black Monarchy, he wants to jump ship. The man snickered. Oh, so you said that you had information on the demons, care to share? Of course. You see, the demons are in the Vatican City because they discovered something that is highly attractive to them. Most would presume it's the angel that had recently appeared, but it doesn't seem like it. You see, I have a few connections to tradesmen from the demon race. Apparently, they have discovered the descent of one of the demon gods, and she's currently in the process of awakening her power. The bloodline is pretty weak, so it's hard to detect them, but they managed to find her by chance and now they're trying their best to recover her. As the city is quite far from the front lines, they're struggling to transport high-level demons to come assist, but I think they're going to strike a deal with Dominic. After all, that man commands a dragon army of his own. Staying silent, Shiro furrowed her brows. She somewhat knew who they were talking about since Madison had the demonic Valkyrie class. In addition to this, It seems like she awakened her demon bloodline after her hidden class up. If not for that, she would have received a normal class. Where can I find the demons? Shiro asked. You can find them underneath the Vatican City. Currently, they have around 100 A-class demons and 200 B-class demons, which is more than enough to destroy the Vatican City. However, they're being careful due to the angel, hence why Dominic thinks this is a perfect chance for him to strike. A deal, the man replied. I see. Tell me your name. Call me ZYN. He replied with a smile. All right, ZYN, how good are your connections? Shiro asked. Second to none if you're talking about demons. There are only a few who are better than me when it comes to information gathering in human domains. ZYN chuckled. That will do. What do you think about working for me? It's either that or I kill you. The black market isn't exactly filled with people who are good after all. Shiro narrowed her eyes. She had already embedded dormant nanobots into his body, which would monitor his moves. The moment he plans against her, she'll notice and the nanobots will activate. I give. I'll serve under you. May I know your name then? He raised his hands. No need to know. I'll contact you when I need you, Shiro said while throwing him a phone. Flickering out of the room, she allowed the guards to move once more. Hashtag, furrowing his brows. ZYN clicked his tongue. He didn't know who that person was, but he could tell that the person was in the early stages of a class. Pulling out his own phone, he dialed up his main client in order to inform him about some slight changes. Hopefully, she'll be able to resolve it for him as he was just a scout and a tradesman. His combat ability was on the low side, which is why he served under powerful people. However, just as he pulled out his phone to call his boss, he felt a surge of mana erupt out from within him and blood started to pour from his orifices. ARGG. Screaming out in pain, he started to claw away at his face. Nanobots started to chew through his skin before spreading to the guards. Hashtag, a shame. I was actually hoping he'd serve under me too. That way I could get some information on the demon continent. Shiro thought with a sigh. He wasn't exactly the nicest folk either, so it was to be expected. So what are you going to do now? Nimue asked. I think I'll kill Dominic now and then disguise myself to get some information from the demons. After all, this is something quite important for Maddie. True. Who would have thought that the only person who thought she was normal in the party was actually a descendant of a demon god? Nimue shook her head with pity for the girl, indeed. Though I suppose it's to be expected since demonic classes are very rare and can only be obtained through specific qualifications. I had dismissed this though because she gained it as a hidden class, but to think that it's actually due to her bloodline. Do you think I should break the news to her, or should I let her find out herself? Shiro asked. You should probably let her find out herself. Maybe you can stage a raid on the demons with the party? They want to follow you as a party more often after all. Nimue suggested. That doesn't sound too bad. Shiro nodded her head as that was her next goal after killing Dominic. Searching for Dominic's signal, she discovered that he had already left. He black market and was making his way to Vatican City. This is perfect. There's a countryside past the Vatican City, so I can probably drag him over there to avoid unnecessary casualties. She thought with a smile. Dashing out of the black market using her Rift Strider, she managed to see him jump onto a dragon. Without hesitation, she stomped down and launched herself towards him. Amen. Noticing her presence, Dominic was surprised to see a cloaked figure charging towards him. Grabbing him by the face, she dragged him into the rift. Before he could even speak, Shiro slammed his body against the ground. But just as she did this, a pair of dragons suddenly appeared through a portal and chomped towards her. Pivoting on her foot, she was able to dodge the jaws narrowly as the speed of the dragons surprised her, especially since she was now a Tier 5 being. I don't know who you are, but it seems like you've got a bone to pick with me. Dominic frowned. Without saying anything, Shiro created 2 hand cannons and pulled the trigger. Asterisk bang bang. Widening his eyes in shock, Dominic watched as his dragons barely managed to block the shots as blood poured out from the large cavities that suddenly appeared on their chests. Flickering in front of him, Shiro twisted her body and roundhouse kicked him out of the rift. Flying out of the portal like a speeding bullet, Dominic's body was almost folded up in half due to the power of her kick, summoning another dragon. He quickly jumped on its back and started to flee. Seeing this, Shiro only grinned as this was exactly what she wanted. After all, He was fleeing towards the countryside where she could go all out without giving a shit. Of course, it's not like. This required her to go all out, but seeing as how Rakarth was quite powerful, it would be good if she took things with caution. Hovering in the air, she looked towards the slightly wounded Dominic with narrowed eyes. Taking a few deep breaths, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Who sent you?" he asked with a glare. "No one. I just think that you're in my way." Shiro chuckled and aimed her gun towards his head. "What bad luck." He sighed and lit up a cigarette, slamming his hands down. A giant Tier 5 magic circle erupted beneath him. Yura. Suddenly, hundreds of dragon roars could be heard as Shiro pulled the trigger on her gun. Bang. Dodging out of the way just in time, the bullet missed his head but tore out a chunk of his shoulder instead. Since it's my first proper fight after reaching Tier 5, I should have a bit of fun, no? If I just one-shot everyone at my full power, it would be quite boring after all. Shiro thought with a chuckle. Don't get too carried away now. Sometimes underestimating someone might just bite you back in the ass. Nimue reminded with a chuckle. Don't worry. If the dragons become annoying, I have a way to deal with them all, and it doesn't require any shooting or large-scale destruction spell. Shiro reassured with a grin. If you say so. Since you're going to have some fun, make it entertaining for Addie. Of course, summoning Athera, she waited for the first dragon to appear. However, instead of seeing the giant reptile beast, she was greeted with a face full of dragon breaths. Rolling her eyes, she took a deep breath and used her own breath attack. Using ice as a counter, steam filled the area as she was about to match the output of several dragons, which showed the might of her magic power. Furrowing his brows, Dominic couldn't help but realize that he was heavily outmatched in this situation. Against an opponent like this, numbers weren't going to work and he had to double down on singular strength instead. Biting his thumb, he started to draw out a magic circle out of blood as more and more dragons appeared around him. Charging towards Shiro, their main goal was to delay her until he could summon the Elder Dragons. Sidestepping the first dragon that had tried to bite her in half, Shiro twisted her body and swiped down with her sword. Poochie. Shredding through the scale like it was nothing, her armor-pierced stats were showing their might as a dragon's armor was one of the toughest in the monster world. Summoning the remaining copies of Athera, she eyed the other dragons that were circling around her before looking towards Dominic. Activating her analysis skill, she immediately deciphered the magic circle and understood that it was summoning powerful dragons that were around mid to late stages of Tier 5. Ho ho, I wonder if Rakarth is part of them, Shiro thought to herself. Fending off a few more dragons with ease, Shiro wondered how she even allowed the destruction of the city to begin with. Do you think it's due to the demons? Nimue suggested. Perhaps. I can target multiple people easily in the early tiers because the firepower of each individual was still low. But against Tier 5s, if I'm not careful, I'll be heavily wounded since my defense is paper thin for a Tier 5 entity. Since the demons have multiple Tier 5 beings, as in they have 100, it would make sense that I won't be able to target all of them. Shiro replied. Flaring her mana, she sent out a wave of cold mist as the dragons which were unlucky enough to be caught up were frozen in an instant. Snapping her fingers, cracks started to appear on their bodies and they weren't killed instantly, which surprised Shiro. However, once she saw that they were preventing themselves from being completely frozen, it made sense for them to survive. Shrugging her shoulders, she finished off the wounded dragons with a few sword swing. That's a pretty interesting magic circle you have here. Shiro smiled as she appeared behind Dominic. Stabbing a sword through his back, she pinned him against the ground as the magic circle started to flicker. Gritting his teeth, Dominic activated a few of his berserk skills. Draconic armor started to form around him as he grabbed Shiro's wrist and flung her off his back. A woman, he thought to himself in surprise due to her masculine voice. However, regardless of her gender, his life was in danger. A surprising burst of strength. Are you going to fight me personally? Shiro chuckled while landing on the ground softly. Without saying anything, Dominic reached into his inventory and pulled out a beating heart, which disgusted Shiro a little. Opening his mouth, he took a large bit of the heart and proceeded to eat it. The F***CK is wrong with you? I know I'm about to kill you, but do you have to eat a heart? Shiro raised her eyebrow. Right after he finished eating the heart, Shiro immediately noticed the sudden increase of mana within his body. His aura seemed more chaotic as it was similar to that of a crazed dragon. Disappearing from his spot, he reappeared above her and tried to kick down. However, Shiro only raised her hand and created a nanotech bracelet. Stacking a few strength boosting skills, she blocked the kick, which caused the ground around her to shatter from the force. Is that all? Shiro looked up towards Dominic. Gritting his teeth, he twisted his body and tried to knee her on the back of the head. Ducking underneath him, she created a wave of pressurized air and sent him flying into the sky. Unfurling a set of draconic wings, he ordered the dragons to charge towards her. Grinning slightly, Shiro activated her new skill, Divine Enchantment. Once per day, she is allowed to enchant one of her skills, evolving it to the next tier. Meaning, she can use this on her eyes of the Gorgon. Feeling a wave of power surge through her eyes, she closed them for a brief moment before glaring at the horde of dragons along with Dominic. Alarms started to ring out in Dominic's mind as he quickly turned around. Unfortunately for him, the eyes of the Gorgon still worked even if you look away. With the skill now in the realm of Tier 6, it was harder to resist. Turning all of the dragons into stone in an instant, she sent out a wave of nanotech needles to shatter them. As for Dominic, he was barely holding on as only a small portion of his body remained while the rest was turned to stone. The only reason for this was because Shiro wanted to test something out. She didn't see her future self do this, so she wasn't sure. However, if she could achieve what she wanted to do, this could be very handy in the future. Walking up to the petrified Dominic, she narrowed her eyes and activated Reaper. Summoning a pair of black chains, she had them wrap around Dominic before giving them a hard tug. Gah! As she pulled on the chains, she could see a faint illusionary figure of Dominic being ripped from his body. Furrowing her brows, she was surprised at the amount of resistance she was feeling due to the fact that this was her first time doing this. However, this resistance was short-lived as she gave it another tug, ripping his soul completely out of his body. She took a deep breath and used the skill scholar to try to understand how extraction worked. After all, if the extraction skill could access their source code and give her a skill, it should also be able to rip out some of their memories and pass it on to her. That way, she wouldn't need to worry about interrogation in the future. Not when she can rip out their soul and get the information directly. Closing her eyes, red circuit-like patterns started to creep up her arm. Exerting her control over this strange power, she redirected it into a magic circle. Watching the circuit peel off her arm and wrap around her wrist, a red magic circle appeared above her palm. Unlike the normal magic circle, it wasn't formed with runes or numbers. Trying her best to analyze the magic circle, Shiro found herself lost on how to read it. However, due to Skill Scholar, she was able to understand small portions, but it wasn't enough. Treating it as a learning experience, she reached out towards Dominic's soul. "Don't scream," she said with a grin. Looking down at her hands with a frown, Shiro looked back at the now unresponsive Dominic. Turns out, extracting memories from a soul was highly dangerous, and a single bad move results in the soul completely going potato on her. Shaking her head, she had nanobots consume Dominic's body. With this, I've already changed the future since I haven't met Rakarth yet. While he has been freed, due to Dominic's death, he doesn't know me. Shiro thought to herself as she started to make her way back to the city. Maybe it's a good thing. If you think about it, while the butterfly effect may stop you from making a new friend, it could also be the catalyst to prevent something bad in the future. Nimue said with a smile. True. Anyways, I should probably inform the party about the demons now. But speaking of the future, I wonder if I'm able to kill a C***T called Batros early. He wasn't exactly a good guy in the future, and doing so may allow me to free up a few hostages that will be captured by him. Shiro mused before increasing her speed. Making her way back to the city, she had the party meet up back at the house. So, did you meet this old friend of yours? Lyrica asked, as that was Shiro's main goal when they split up. Unfortunately, no. However, I did manage to get some good information on the demons and their main goal. Turns out that there is someone they're looking for here in Vatican City, and it ain't Lisa. They're currently located deep underground with 100 A-class demons on standby and 200 B-class demons. Apparently, they're being cautious because of Lisa, so we can assume that her magic's highly effective against them. Shiro replied with a chuckle. Hearing that there are 300 demons in the city with 100 of them being a class, the party took a moment to digest the information. This might be a bit more than what we can handle, Aram said as Shiro nodded her head. You're right about that. You see, with 100 A-class and 200 B-class demons, I'm not able to keep them all busy with a large-scale magic circle, as it would open me up to a lethal strike to the heart. Despite having a huge amount of firepower, I'm still a glass cannon with paper-thin defenses to A-class demons. Sylvie, remember when the boss dropped my health by more than half in a single hit during that raid? That's how thin my defenses are, Shiro said as Sylvia nodded her head. However, there it is. Madison sighed as she knew what was coming next. We'll be able to deal with them if I can get the surprise attack. Meaning, we'll be hosting a raid against their base with the help of the government officials that have joined us in the city do. The slight accident that I caused with my skill. Shiro smiled. Do you think they'll agree to the raid though? Lyrica asked. Not sure. Even if they don't, I have an idea on how to kill them. Since my defenses are paper thin, I'll need to be careful of how I attack their base. Melee is not an option since they can decide to restrain me at the cost of their life, and I'll be killed. Guns? Madison asked. Guns. Shiro grinned. Snapping her finger, a hologram of all the best guns that she can make appeared in front of them. These will be our main weapons if the government officials decide to not give a sh*t, which I doubt, but you never know. Shiro shrugged before dismissing the holograms. So why don't I get a note on which weapon everyone wants? She smiled. First, Lyrica, what do you want? Give me the pistols like the ones that you use. I'm going to be front-lining a bit after. Oh, Lyrica replied. Got it. You need to be careful of the recoil though. If you're not careful, your shoulders might pop out. Shiro nodded. Huh. Second, Madison, what do you want? Give me a powerful shotgun. I'm a tank, so I might as well be in the thick of things. Madison laughed. Sure, I'll give you something. That ignores armor. Since you're a tank, you won't need to worry about being hit like I do. And just to make it easier for you, I'll make you a suit of armor too to increase your other parameters. Shiro chuckled. Third, Sylvia, what do you want? I'll just have something that's easy to use, I suppose. My main role is to keep everyone alive after all. Sylvia smiled. How about the machine guns then? They're pretty light and easy to use. Shiro suggested. Sure. Lil, Chun, it's your turn. What gun do you want? I'll have what you use as well since they look like they pack a punch while being light. The hand cannons? Sure. Next is Aram. What do you want? Me? I've got my spells, but a gun would be quite interesting. How about something like a sniper then? Aram chuckled. Got it. And you, Helion? Shiro nodded. Give me something beefy. Something that can really *CK up their day. He laughed since he might as well get some enjoyment out of it. How about a set of mini guns and rail cannons? You won't be able to move around, but you can rain hellfire from the backlands. Shiro suggested, as this was one of her favorite setups, especially when she's on one of her flying fortresses. Sounds great. Helion nodded his head. He even entertained the idea of not letting the government get involved so that he could give the guns a shot, but that was just irresponsible. There will be plenty of chances for him to give the guns a try in the future after all. Now then, my two darling daughters, what do you want? Shiro turned to Lisa and Een. Give me a chicken drumstick. Een chuckled, seeing the party raise their eyebrow. Een waved her hand. I'm kidding. I'll have a mini gun like Helion. Raining hellfire from the backlands while eating some food sounds great to me. I'll have the two shotguns, I suppose. I saw one that didn't need me to reload like the sniper I tried before. Oh, that one. Got it. Noting down everyone's preferences, they turned to the party once more. Now then, shall we head to the guild? We'll report about the demons, then see if we can launch a raid against them with the government officials. Making their way to the guild that was just down the road, Shiro and the party approached the counter. Hello, how can I help you today? The receptionist smiled. I want to report some new information about the demons that have appeared in the city. I see. Before we talk about what kind of information you have, do you have a reliable source or proof of the matter? If not, we'll need to get some people to verify this information, which might take a while, depending on the information. I can give you proof, but it'll take a little while. The information I want to give is the demon's location as well as their numbers. Shiro replied. Thinking about it for a moment, the receptionist pulled out her phone and called someone. After a few moments, she turned back to the party. The guild master of this branch will be here shortly. You may discuss the matter with her." Nodding her head, Shiro waited patiently for the guild master to greet them. "Are you the one who was wanting to give some information about the demons?" A woman called out as Shiro nodded her head. The woman stood slightly taller than her with dark crimson hair tied into a ponytail. Her clothes consisted of a suit jacket, a white shirt, some suit pants, and a pair of high heels. "All right, come to my office, we'll talk there." The woman nodded with a serious face since the demons were a serious problem to the safety of this city. The sooner they get rid of them, the better. Taking the elevator up to the highest floor, she opened her office doors and gestured for the party to sit down on the sofas. "So tell me, what is it that you want to report?" she asked with a serious expression. "I found out that there are 100 A-class demons and 200 B-class demons underneath the city. I was hoping that the guild could organize a raid with the government officials that have arrived due to the mass case of mana deficiency," Shiro said as she went straight to the point. Hearing that there were 100 A-class demons underneath the city, the guild master widened her eyes in shock before furrowing her brows. "Are you able to confirm this?" she asked with slight amounts of dread written on her face. "Yes." Hearing Shiro's response, the guild master took a deep breath to calm herself down. "Understood. We'll host a raid in a day's time after calling for more reinforcements." Leaving the guild, Shiro was thinking to herself about the raid one day later. "Since we have a day's time, do you think we should do some scouting so that the information of Madison's background is revealed to us and only us?" Shiro asked as, "It would be bad for the world to know that their party member is the descendant of a demon god. That would be wise. But if you wanted to do that, why didn't you just do the raid with the party instead of telling the guild?" "That's because they can still send out distress messages to people so that they're informed of the 100 A-class demons. If the reinforcements are here before the raid, they can deal with any stragglers that escape our grasp now. Think of it as a backup." Shiro replied as Nimue nodded. If they had no backup and a demon escaped to the city, quite a lot of people would die from its attacks. "Right then, shall we go say hi to the demons?" Shiro smiled and turned to the party. "Huh, didn't you get the guild to set up the raid in a day's time?" Lyrica asked with slight confusion. "Well, think of it like this. The more A-class demons we kill, the more EXP we can keep to ourselves, boosting our strength. And with reinforcement in the city for tomorrow's raid, they can deal with any demons that escape from the underground." Shiro explained. "True, 300 demons worth of EXP is pretty tempting, especially since 100 of them are a class." Madison nodded her head. "Then it's sorted. Who knows, if we can kill them all before the day is up, the reinforcements can start to clean up the underground area that they have set up." "I'm not exactly keen on cleaning up after all." Shiro chuckled. "Fair enough. So where do we go? There's got to be an entrance to the underground after all." Lyrica asked with a smile. "To be honest, I have no idea. I still need to conduct a search after all." Shiro stuck out her tongue as this was all information she received from Zyn, whom she killed after leaving. "Give me a moment, I'll search for them now." Shiro smiled. Looking around for a moment, she conjured up a tier 5 magic circle and sent it into the sky. Snapping her fingers, the magic circle started to expand as her MP was draining fast. But with her passive buff from rejuvenation along with Athra's active skill, she was able to offset her mana usage and power the magic circle all by herself, which was unthinkable before tier 5 that after all, even for Wrath of Stars, she needed to set up several mana gatherers to collect mana from her surroundings in order to power the spell. However, after reaching tier 5, her control and power had increased to the point where she can now power this huge spell all by herself. With Madison as a reference, due to the demon heritage, Shiro was able to pick up on the demonic signals deep underground, activating the second part of the magic circle. A semi-translucent map of the place appeared in her mind as all the hidden tunnels were revealed to her. Dismissing the magic circle, she teleported the party into her rift. "I found the tunnels, so we'll be phasing through the ground into the tunnels instead of going through the entrance." Shiro smiled as the party nodded their heads. While she was bringing them to the tunnels, she summoned some nanobots and started to craft the guns that each of them wanted. "This is..." Helion raised his eyebrows at the small orb that Shiro had passed to him, as this was not miniguns and rail cannons. The 4 big-ass guns are secured to the ground, so it wouldn't make sense for you to be carrying them on your back at all times. When you find a good spot, throw the orb down in front of you, and then step back. The guns will appear after a short while. Shiro rolled her eyes as Helion nodded his head. Also, Maddie, what kind of armor do you want? I got a few mech suits for you to choose from. Shiro called out as several holographic screens appeared in front of Madison. Each screen showed an image of the armor along with its features and benefits. It even told her about some of their weaknesses and what she needed to be careful of when using them. Thinking about it for a moment, Madison eventually picked the armor called Impure King. The armor was one that focused on sustaining itself on the battlefield with high defense and lifesteal. The armor was one that could convert between defense and speed, but it took a large amount of mana to do so each time. Plus, during the moment of conversion, there's a period where the user won't be able to move, exposing themselves, so one needs to be careful of when they use this. Interesting choice. There are probably better ones, but why this one? Shiro asked with curiosity. Because it has the highest lifesteal. With the power of the shotgun, I'll be able to regenerate a huge chunk of health in the middle of combat. Plus, isn't there also the feature of spiked defense? You rebound some of the damage you take, which when paired with lifesteal, is passive healing. No. Madison pointed out as Shiro nodded her head. You are indeed correct. Its main problem is mana efficiency, as it isn't the most elegant of designs, but the other aspects are very powerful. I can modify it a little so that you can hopefully get a boost of mana every time you come into contact with an enemy with the feature called Mana Leech. Wait, if I combine that with spiked defense, doesn't that mean I can get health and mana back while I'm defending? Madison raised her eyebrow. And when you stack your defense-raising skills on top of all that? Shiro grinned. That damn okay, I can see why you like breaking common sense so much. This is pretty fun. Madison laughed as she was excited to try all of this out. See, you should embrace the ridiculousness rather than go against it. Isn't it so much more fun breaking the system with synergies? Shiro smiled. At long last, the final bastion for normal in this party has collapsed. All hope is lost for common sense. Aram declared as the party only laughed since Madison had been quite adamant about normality. But once she took a bite of the fruit known as abnormality, she wouldn't be able to give it up. What? It's not like I was going to get my wish soon. Anyways, with Shiro around, do you really think I can get normality? Madison pouted. There, have some op armor instead. Shiro patted her head and handed her a crystal necklace. Looking at the crystal, Madison could see nanobots swirling around and understood that this was going to form the Impure King Amor. To activate this, I need you to shout out a chant that may or may not cause you to die of cringe. Shiro grinned, as there were hints of sadism in her eyes. I'm only kidding. If it was someone else, I would have designed it so that they would need to shout some sh*t like corrupt the world with me as the catalyst. Impure King haha. Their face of utter humiliation would be quite a sight, but since it's you, all you have to do is pump that necklace with mana and it'll activate. Shiro chuckled, sighing in relief. Madison was glad that she didn't need to shout out an embarrassing chant. Now then, we have arrived at one of the underground tunnels. Are you ready to wreck some shop? Shiro grinned as she opened the rift. Cracking her neck, she stepped out of the portal with her 2 hand cannons. #### somewhere deep in the underground caverns, a few demons suddenly raised their heads up in shocked eye in the distance. They could sense the signature of the one they had been looking for approaching with the signature of the angel. Do you think she has captured the angel and is coming to prove her bloodline? One of the demons asked with an excited look in his eyes. Perhaps. Let's go greet the princess and look at the situation ourselves. They seem to have a few guests with them, one of which is a queen. An older demon narrowed his eyes. Standing up, they unfurled their demonic wings and started to fly through the caverns, making their way to the party at breakneck speed.